welcome back, everybody, to the danjohnuniversity.com podcast. This is podcast 162. Now, the only reason I want to stop and talk about that number, and by the way, if you have questions, email them to us at podcast@danjohnuniversity.com. The other day, in one of the notes, I found somebody asked me, how do you contact and send in questions? And I turned on the video and I noted that it takes 17 seconds before I mention that. Obviously 17 seconds was too long, so now I'm going to say it right away before I even say anything else. I realize that patience is a virtue and not too many people have it anymore, and mostly including me. So it's episode 162, and the reason that makes me smile is when I was a senior in high school, I graduated at 162. I played American football, I wrestled, and I threw the discus 170 feet. And after meeting Dick Notmeyer a few months later, I put on 40 pounds in 4 months doing the Olympic lifts because we squatted every day. And that completely changed my life. It is interesting, and I bring this up in my workshops a lot, that when I go to high school track meets now, nobody throws 170, nobody throws 160, nobody throws 150. In fact, when someone throws 120, they think they're the world champion. And the thing is, the kids are literally, in some cases, twice my size in high school. I'm seeing 300-pound boys in high school, and it's a concern of mine. That's a lot of weight to carry as a young person. And, of course, you set your hormone system up, and you set your gut biome up, and you set your joints up for long-term issues. So no warning, no me being mean or nice. I just wanted to say that. So here we are, episode 162. Life is good, and let's get answering some questions. So the first one's from Mike, and Mike says, I'm an average 54-year-old male. Well, you're the only average man I've ever met in my life, so congratulations for being humble. 6'1", 220, with a passion for dodgeball. I have been playing dodgeball competitively for 14 years and have no desire to stop. I play year-round. As of late, I seem to be losing a step or two in a few areas, those being mobility, speed, reaction time, and throwing speed. Okay, more than a few areas. I am currently the oldest in my league. I played American football up until my late 40s, and I was literally twice the age of most people in the league, yeah, so I know how that feels. I was also a very offensive player. But I'm still considered a very strong thrower. I really like to be competitive to at least 60, as there's no rush to competition with younger athletes that would be hard to abandon. My question is that, in your opinion, would the best program for maintaining or improve the skills needed for my sport? Well, listen, on things like mobility and speed, now, the problem we run into right away, and this is just a small thing, when we talk about mobility out on the field of play, there's this, it's a quality, at least it's an older quality, that we used to talk about. It's like agility. It was this thing that I've never felt comfortable that one can actually coach it. You can train your body to do a lot of things. And if you can train your body to do a lot of things and then up the cost, you can make, the reason you get more agile doing cone drills or more mobile on the field of play doing cone drills is that you're giving your body more practice attempts to do it. I'm not sure that you're going to be as agile on a 2x4 on carpet as you are on that same 2x4 between two skyscrapers, but probably if you practiced between those two skyscrapers often enough, you actually probably would get pretty good at it. Like if it was how you got to work, or every day you had to do it 3 times a day to save your children or something like that. You'd get pretty agile and mobile at doing that. With physical mobility, that's an issue. Now, that I define mobility as the free movement around all the joints. And the problem, of course, is that the joints that are less mobile are gonna affect everything downstream and in some cases upstream. We always talk about with elbow injuries, you always have to look at the wrist and the shoulder, because the elbow is showing the pain, but it could be somewhere else that's, the real cause. Your adaptation could be the real cause. I like the idea of you doing mobility 2-3 times a week now, because anytime basically after the age of 36 or so, you're going to start getting tighter. For speed, yeah, you can fight the demon of speed back, but in a short fielded game like dodgeball, keeping your glutes strong, getting really strong in the glutes might help. Hip thrust, squat, the whole squat family, prowlers, probably dragging sleds too. I'm sure there's others. There's some deadlifts that seem to really help some people get really strong. And oddly, I think this is just the way we're built. Like for me, I got a lot out of the Romanian deadlift, and I think I coach it well, but some people just don't get the feeling I do. And then when we stand up next to each other, you see those big limb differences, and oh, okay, that's why. But working the glutes is going to be a winner no matter what. So no matter what you decide to do, Mike, no matter what, at your age, post 35, all the mobility work you do is always valuable no matter what you do. Number two, glute work, no matter what you do, is good. So those are 2 win-wins. But what I'd like to talk to you, reaction time, use your experience to increase your reaction time. I think the more you see situations, the faster you react to them. But when it comes to throwing ability, now you're in my house. The squats, the deadlifts, if you snatch and you clean, obviously, those would be the strength movements to increase your throwing speed. But I do think there'd be value in a lightish. Now, Dynamax has a 4-pound, 2-kilo medicine ball. I'm not sure anybody needs to go much over the 4. I mean, I've used the 6-pound because I got them for free, and I liked them, but when it comes to things like med balls, I think a lot of people really overload them. So, it's funny because I can say people overload Turkish get-ups and I get 1,000. Oh, you don't even know what you're talking about. When I talk about med balls, I say the same thing, but no one responds. I guess we don't have that insane. I don't know why people put their self-esteem up with certain exercises. I mean, really. I mean, I can see with the clean. I've cleaned 402 pounds, 182.5 kilos. So to me, when you say heavy cleans, I say over 400. But I don't want to hear about your Turkish deadlift being, your Turkish get-up being, 50 pounds. It's just, you think that's heavy? I'll show you heavy. Get yourself a lighter. I like the Dynamax because at least in my experience, those can take a beating and still keep coming back. And I like the lighter ones because they're more throw-like. But get yourself in a situation, find a partner or a wall. Walls are great partners. Feet together, overhead, feet together, chest pass, feet together, side throw, feet together, other side throw. Go goofy stance a lot, especially with your sport. So as a right-handed thrower, my natural stance is to have my left foot forward. Goofy is where you put a right-handed thrower has their right foot forward. Again, overhead, chest, side, side. Normal stance, overhead, chest, side, side. After that, turn around, and you can do 10 or 20 here. I mean, Percy Sarity would talk about doing this for, like 30 minutes. You're going to get a lot of throws in 30 minutes against a wall. I mean, that's going to be a lot. And by the way, maybe one day a week, 30 minutes of med ball might be really good for you. Turn around then and throw them over your head. If you know American football, you'll snap, do some of those like you're snapping it back to a punter, between your legs throws. If you look up Finnish javelin throwers and medicine ball, I think there still might be an article online. I think there's in the 50s of medicine ball throwing exercises you can do. I don't like doing one-arm throws past a certain age. I think there's value, but with a lot of older men, especially North American men, they've had so much shoulder damage because of all the push-ups, bench press, and throwing sports, that doing them one arm just really puts that shoulder. I just worry about that extra stress and how it almost seems, I don't know, how it's like we break up our tissues or something. And I worry a little bit about one arm throws, but stick with the two. And, it wouldn't be a terrible idea if you get involved in a sport I'm a big fan of. We used to call it ultimate Hoover ball, I think it was called. It's the sport of ultimate frisbee with a 4-pound Dynamax ball. And it is a hilariously fun sport. You'll get your workout in. And if your team ever just needs a nice diversion for conditioning and overall throwing strength, it would be marvelous. The other thing I think you need to probably practice, and this is my opinion, and this is just me, but I would love to see you do more offhand throwing. In a game situation sometime, it might really come in handy to be able to pick up a ball and whip it with some success at the opponent. So if you get a chance, throw in some of your training, do a lot more bilateral work. And if you have any game films, I'd sure like to see it. All right, thank you. That was a little bit different of a question. I appreciate that. Which brings us to Robert's question. He says, I enjoy goblet squatting, but I'm looking to move into double kettlebell movements. I want to progress to doing the ABC armor building complex workouts to improve my strength and power for rugby. I have found front squats tricky to maintain my form. I can't reach depth with good form, whereas like goblet squats look a lot better. Okay, that's really common. So I was wondering if you had any drills or exercises that you could use to bridge the gap between goblet squatting and front squatting. Now, I'm guessing front squats with 2 kettlebells, what we call the double kettlebell front squat. I'm guessing that. If you're talking about the barbell one, I'm saying it's fairly clear to me, but I always worry about, I hope I'm correct, I'm helping with what you want. I was thinking of starting by using a single kettlebell front squat or box squats. I don't think so. Not with kettlebells. With double kettlebells, but I'm interested to know if you have any ideas. And then we have a different question comes up. I just don't know why you're having a problem with double kettlebell front squats. This would be one of those times I'd like to see a video to see what's going on, because a couple things. First, is your clean appropriate? Do you have your thumbs on your chest? I'm a big believer that when you do double kettlebell front squats, you want your thumbs and the back of your hands are pointing forward. You really squeeze your elbows into your sides. You pack your shoulders in, down and deep. And then when you feel, and then you want to feel this part of your arm sliding on the inside of your knee, or quads as you drop down. It's easier to do than to explain. So I'm just wondering why that's an issue. Doubles by themselves are one of the best exercises I think collision sport and collision occupation people can do, because it does teach that what we call that anaconda strength, that tension, that internal inner tube tension very well. It's an interesting question. Robert, I'm concerned why there's an issue there, especially if you're a rugby player. Single side front squats have their place. I put them usually after someone masters the double. And really I just use it for as kind of an assessment. I look to see if the chin, the sternum, and the zipper are in a straight line when you do single side. And if it's not, then we try to figure out, kind of reverse engineer. Are you injured? Are you immobile? Are you broken? Is there an old injury that still has you kind of protecting it? Or is it just, one side is clearly stronger than the other? And I'm sure there's other things I've never even thought about that'll cause a person to be perfect on one side and then just be all over the place on the other. It seems like we have a second question here, okay? On the minimum strength standards, I was referring to starting double kettlebell movements. At what point do you believe there is value in introducing a second kettlebell over just practicing the movements more than with more more movements with the one. Perhaps my issue is that I'm starting double kettlebell movements too early. Not if you're a rugby player. Yeah, okay, for me, and just to finish up, and this is an issue that shows up. For me, when you have a single kettlebell, you do the two-handed swing, the goblet squat, the Turkish get-up, the whole press family, and the snatch. When you have double kettlebells, you do the ABC. You do double clean, double front squat, double press. With doubles, I don't really... Someone's going to say, well, what about double deadlifts? I mean, come on. I mean, even with double beasts, that's the 48Ks. You know, we're looking at 212 pounds. The barbell is a much better tool. There are some programs you do like sets of 20. And by the way, if you ever decide to do 3 sets of 20 with double kettlebell deadlifts, it is much harder than just saying 3 sets of 20 with double kettlebell deadlifts. I was surprised how much it baked me. But yeah, so for me, when it's time to add load, you certainly, I mean, like in the press, with the press doing heavy singles versus heavy doubles, you know, I mean, there's going to be listeners who are like, man, the double I'm so much better at. And there'll be listeners who be like, oh no, the single. So the press is the press. When it comes to the squat family, I mean, the goblet squat is probably one of the best things you can do for almost anybody. And the double is more load with more of that pulling down tension, which is great. The double clean is one of the things that my American football players said, this is how I feel after the game. And that's why it became the armor building complex. Double clean, 2 reps, double press, 1 rep, double front squat, 3 reps, rest, continue, and, you know, do it as many times as you can. So, you know, I don't like using 2 kettlebells for some of the exercises that are really popular online. And I always tell people, well, if you like them, go ask questions of the people who like that exercise, not me. And the interesting thing is the people who like that exercise don't often answer questions because because the follow-up question I get on emails, I went, well, I did, and they didn't respond. So, well, I respond even when I don't agree with an exercise. So I hope that helps. I think that's something you'd want to consider, that armor building complex. Just Google it. You'll just look through my videos here on YouTube, and you'll find lots and lots of references to it. It is a very popular workout. It's used by every organization that teaches kettlebells uses it, and in some situations they actually give credit to the author. That's me. Giving credit to the inventor in our field is just something that doesn't happen. So, but that was a good question, and I appreciate it. We have a question from Andrew. Andrew says, if you didn't have much weight to put on the bar and wanted to train the deadlift, this is tough already, would you A, switch to a different deadlift variation like a snatch grip or thick bar? Yeah, that's what I did. Yeah, during that time where I only had 165 pounds, every deadlift I did was snatch grip or elevated or with my heels together, sometimes called the duck stance. Sometimes it's called, we used to call it frog stance, the frog stance. And of course the thick bar. I even got a set of those grips and I don't know where they are. I don't know if I've loaned them out, but I had those red grips that you put on there, and they're built like a C. So the bar sits in here like this and the grip is like that. So every rep is like that. That was really a good little exercise. Or B, continue as I am and just not try for heavier weight on the heaviest set. One of the things about the deadlift is that some people, now I'm not one of them, some people really get benefits out of high rep deadlifts. It's weird because I am kind of a hinge person. I can hinge really well. But high rep deadlifts has never been good for me. One of my friends was very good at high rep deadlifts. In fact, freakishly so. He was my friend Lane, who famously deadlifted 405 for 20. Waited 3 weeks because he had been reading these magazines. I have some over here. And the magazine said to basically it would make you freakishly strong. So he waited a couple weeks and did a max deadlift of 425. If you can deadlift 405 for 20 and your max is 425, boom, that's eye-open. He called me up, and fortunately we were able to really help him. And it was an interesting thing because he worked so hard and got so little. So that's a good option. C, try to get new equipment so I can lift heavier. I ultimately always do that. I just take more time than the rest of you. It might take me, if I say like tonight, I have to move somewhere and I can't keep my gym, so I get rid of my whole gym. When I move to the new place, maybe I'll be able to take one kettlebell with me and a broomstick or something. But within 5 or 6 years, I'll have a full gym again because I scrounge, When I was young, being a scrounge was a bad thing. If you ask people for a bite of a sandwich, you scrounge. But I'm a scrounge, okay, and I scrounge weights up. When the pandemic hit, I had a full gym and I loaned out a bunch of equipment, and some of it's come back. And then his last is D, try something different. So the big question is, how do you keep on without adding weight? How do you keep improving? How do you keep, my world is progressive resistance exercise. How do you progress without load? Now, you've already given all the options. You really have. You've answered your own question. My knock on most strength coaches is that, and I do it myself, because when you're working with a team, the head coach just wants raw numbers. Are they strong? Well, yeah, we're stronger than last year, and that's great. Whoa, will we be better? Well, no, because last year you had a lot of really, really good athletes and a really good coaching staff, and all those athletes graduated, moved on, and you fired your coaching staff, and you're the only one left, and you're an idiot. I'd never said that, but felt it a few times. So load is one of many factors to do progressive resistance exercise. Adding reps, adding sets, that's a standard one. If you're doing 5 sets of 2 in the deadlift with 150 kilos, 330 pounds, and then you start adding reps, and pretty soon you're doing 3 sets of 8 with that same load. I think 3 sets of 8 versus 5 sets, I think you're a lot stronger. So you could do it by reps and sets, increasing. You can also do it, as you mentioned, by changing positions. In my new book, Easy Strength Omni book, I have a whole selection on just how many options with just a single kettlebell, how many different ways you can do it. Well, you can press it. You can hold it like this in the waiter position and press it there. You can do bottoms up. You can stand. You can do half kneeling. You can lay on the floor. You can do it in some of those Turkish get-up positions. There's a lot of ways you can make that single light weight be heavier by changing levels, or by changing the movement, or by changing the way you hold on to it. So the answer to your question is, if you have a big wallet, the easiest way to fix that is buy more weights. If you have different goals like longevity, and we all have longevity goals, body composition, some other things, you might find variations to be the best way. And I got to tell you, that frog stance deadlift, the frog stance with the snatch grip, eye-opening about how your body is connected. I never realized it's this area here, the tricep lat area. I never realized how important that was in lifting until doing frog stance, duck stance, snatch grip deadlifts. So it can really be a wonderful exploration of the human body. So yeah, there's some value here. Thank you. Good question. I liked it. Very short question. Will asked a question. In your opinion, do you think IWT, interval weight training style training, can be beneficial to the strongman athlete? Well, in the short term, okay, IWT was developed by Pat O'Shea up at Oregon State. When I first read about Pat O'Shea, would have been 1970 or 71. He was the first person I ever actually followed his program, even though I didn't fully understand the power clean and power snatch. But O'Shea, who's no longer with us, sadly, a brilliant man, a number of my friends got their doctorates under his guidance. He was their major professor. He combined things like treadmill and squats, exercise bicycle, and power cleans. Mark Twite then, of course, utilized a whole bunch of it in his books and his experiences. I'm not sure how to credit Mark anymore, but if you do know Mark, tell him I've called you a lot of times, Mark, and you haven't returned my calls. Mark is a big fan of IWT. Now, when it comes to strongman, you guys have that weird kind of endurance. So if you combine something like clean and press, so you're gonna do 8 clean, press, 8 times. Put the weight down and jump on an Aerodyne or something like that, or whatever, the Concept 2 row or whatever the hell it is. Boom, 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 boom for 2 minutes. It might help you with that strange endurance that strongmen need. But to me, that would be a way in the off season kind of thing. As you get closer and closer to your competitions, you're going to have to pick up 5 or 6 or 7 Atlas stones back to back to back to back to back. You're going to have to, do a farmer walk and just do a farmer walk. Today you go for 105 yards, in a week, you better try to get 125. So there would be value, no question, but it'd be in the deep off season. And it would also be a real smart tool, I think, even in the season. Like if you have a fairly long stretch between contests, it might be a real good idea, say like you compete on Saturday and Sunday, is that that week you do some practice sessions with one of your implements on Olympic lift, and then mix in treadmill work, just to make sure your heart and lungs keep up. The tragedy of strongman, especially when the internet first started, is how young you died. And I haven't really heard much since, I haven't heard any terrible stories in a while. So let's hope you guys are focused on your health and longevity as much as your strength. Okay, thanks. Steve asks, how would Dan construct a template that would combine easy strength, with hypertrophy for older 65-year-old lifters? Well, what's funny about that is, here I am, Steve, 65. Is there a easy strength hypertrophy program? Well, that's the same. It's funny. I'm about to say no and yeah in the same exact time, and the words ran into each other. At age 55 plus, a lot of stuff is already under the bridge. A lot of stuff is under the bridge. After 55, and I'm 65, so I'm with you. Mobility, lean body mass, and strength become the most important. Now, if you're mobile, and we can figure out a way to increase lean body mass and get stronger, good things happen. So for me, I'm a big believer. If you can, I'd like you to go to Dan John University and look at, there's 2 programs, obviously. The one is called Easy Strength with Olympic Lifting for Fat Loss. I think it's something like that. And the other one is simply Easy Strength for Fat Loss. But to me, that's the template you want to do. The research is coming out now that for older adults, it's far better to train a little bit every day than it is to train once a week. Having said that, Marty Gallagher has that group of women that proves the exact opposite thing. They lift once a week, but they walk 6 days a week. So again, it's always going to be the everyday template. When Rusty Moore advises older clients, it's frequency. So Steve, it comes down a little bit to this. So for us, for the post 55, certainly 65-year-old, it's going to come down to this. We need to train with more frequency. In that more frequency, we're going to need less sets, but the reps can play around a little bit more. And then we do need more walking, or what we now movement bouts. I've heard that phrase. You need more times a day to pop up and go. I was walking with Mike Warren Brown today, and he said an interesting thing. He thinks it's far better that someone of my age, that hurt my feelings even saying that out loud, should, instead of walking 3 miles, in the morning, I should walk a mile 3 times a day. And I thought that was an interesting way to think about it. So, because that ties into what we know about the new research is telling us about strength with the older population. So it's going to be frequency. Now, if you're doing a flat out easy strength program, which is, 3 sets of 3, 5 sets of 2, 2 sets of 5, there's going to be some hypertrophy work built in as the loads get heavier. But what we found pretty helpful, and this comes from feedback from the site, for the post 65-year-old person, if you can lift, and I would love to see 5 days a week, but let's just say 3 to 5 days a week, lift 3 to 5 days a week and always go for a walk after it. Sprinkle in mobility work 2 to 3 times a week. That's just pretty much how I do it, and go for a walk after. After about 8 weeks of that, 2 months and keep those numbers at, like, for example, just do easy strength for fat loss. So a vertical, military press, 2 sets of 5, deadlift variation, 2 sets of 5, hang, because I've learned through my experience, most people don't really do pull-ups after 8. And what would be funny is how many people will text, I'm 62 and I do pull-ups every day. Good. And and hats off to you, good for you. The bulk of the people I work with post 55, pull-ups are a struggle. So military press, deadlift variation, 2 sets of 5, hang, ab roll out, a suitcase carry back and forth, go for a walk. Do that for 8 weeks. After those 8 weeks, drop your workouts down to 3 days a week and do something like 3 sets of 8 the first 2 weeks, 3 sets of 10 the second 2 weeks. Just use the workout generator, Dan John University. And then 3 sets of 12 and do a push, a pull. What I would recommend, and it's on the website, a push, mobility work, a pull, 3 sets of 8, mobility work, a squat variation, 3 sets of 8, mobility work, a deadlift variation or hinge variation, 3 sets of 8, mobility work, a loaded carry, mobility work, go for a walk. Do that for 4 to 6 weeks. It could even be 2 months if you can. It would be 6 to 12 weeks. I apologize. You can go longer if you like it, and then get back to a basic easy strength template. And that's not bad. And that's basically what I've been doing. My body weight my body fat has come down. The health of my joints has improved. I sleep miles better, and I'm much more charming than I used to be. I got to practice smiling on both sides of my face. Okay. Excellent. Thank you so much, Steve. I hope you appreciate that. For the senior, lift as often as you can, walk as often as you can, do mobility as often as you can. Use your sleep as a gauge. Drink a lot of water, eat your veggies. Pretty simple. Well, we got Nick. Nick is talking to us. Nick says this: I often feel trapped between the need to press and pull heavy weights and the good goal of maintaining a healthy body composition, waist measurement being half my height. Is this dichotomy a common struggle with male athletes? Well, I don't know if it's common, my good friend Nick. I have a bad case of it. So since you have it and I have it, and there's only 2 of us talking right now, then it's 100%. It's like what Dr. Dan Henry told me. He goes, those side effects you have on a drug, only 1% of the population gets it. But if you're in that 1%, it's 100% for you. So yeah, I have the same disease. I know that I need to trim my body fat down, but I still have the goal to lift heavy in the gym, which often makes it harder to lose the fat because I crave extra calories after the hard workouts. Isn't that funny? That's why one of the reasons I like to walk, Nick, after the workouts is because the walk blunts that feeling I have. If I walk with a bottle of water and I drink the water, when I get back, I don't crave crave drinks with calories. But if I make a drink with calories, and it can be something as those little those little packets that got the magic in there that, turn you into an elite athlete. If I drink those in a workout, I might drink 5 of those. They taste good. But if I just drink water on my walk, when I get home, I'm set. I'm fine. That's interesting. Do you think I would have better success at reaching my body composition goals by hitting some strength markers like a 250-pound low bar back squat, 140 overhead press, 300 deadlift, 200 bench, and then turning my attention to drop body fat? Or is it better to forsake the strength gain and go for the fat loss? Is it possible to reach for both at the same time? What resource do you suggest? 38-year-old male, 6'1", 210, 41-inch waist. Current lifts are 3 sets of 3 of 235 the back squat, 120 overhead press, 275 deadlift, 185 bench. And the question, of course, Nick, can you increase strength and lose weight at the same time? Well, I just tried to do it. So, Nick, I just finished the Velocity diet while doing Dave Turner's peaking program. As I said in another tape, another video, every 15 years I can do it. Every 15 years I can do a hard diet and a hard exercise program. What I noticed is by training so hard, I didn't have the body weight loss I was looking for. I do think my body protects itself. I'm not saying I didn't increase fat, that's for sure. But my body knows when I'm lifting heavy and it adapts. I've been doing this since 1965, and it's hard to trick my old engine here. Can you do increased strength and lose weight at the same time? Yeah, and I'll tell you how to do it. And it kind of bothers me that you didn't mention the most obvious thing to me. Go to Dan John University, read up all, I think the course is free to members. It's called Easy Strength for Fat Loss. Just do exactly what I write in there. The only, maybe make a run of it with the overhead squat, the deadlift. So you have pretty much a Jim Wendler 5-3-1-ish kind of thing going here. I mean, you could even do Jim's 5-3-1, but always go for a walk after each and every workout. I got to tell you, for fat loss, that walk after, and of course you have to take the drinking the water seriously. I drink hot water from noon onward. Oh, that's good. If you add lemon to it, it makes life a lot better. I ran out of lemon juice, so, I have to go get more. There's some silly, some of the stuff, it might sound silly, like eating more sauerkraut and eating more kimchi, but the truth is, man, that stuff, those fermented foods did remarkable things for my body composition. Telling me that adding kimchi to my diet would make me lose weight, I wouldn't have believed you. I still don't. It works. So I'm not going to stop doing it. Easy strength for fat loss. Easy strength for fat loss. Nick, let me summarize this fairly simple for you. Easy strength for fat loss. Look at it. Maybe what I would suggest doing maybe is pick one of the lifts. Like, say, for example, I think your overhead squat, you're pretty close to your goal here, right? 5 days a week, hang, do a warm up, like sit in the goblet squat and hang, for a couple rounds of 30 seconds each. Maybe prep it up with a deadlift, 3 sets of 3, military press, 3 sets of 3. If you can handle light back squats, 135 would be fine, 3 sets of 3. Ab wheel and go for a walk, and do that for a couple, 4 weeks. At the end of the 4 weeks, swap the bench press. You got to have a good spotter. If you don't have good spotters, do not do this at home. 5 days a week of bench press, 3 sets of 3, and do that for another month, and then, have a friend or 2 or 3 that you trust come over and do a total and see what happens. Easy strength for fat loss, though. Okay, thank you. We have a question from Chris. My question is, with your experience as a football coach and wrestling, what kind of in-season weightlifting should I have my wrestlers do? Football coaches are always worried about wrestlers losing weight, not lifting. Any football coach that says that, let me just say this for a second. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. The best football players I know wrestle. When I wrestled in high school, I mean, I would show up and I'd have my big bench and, you know, my pull-ups, and I'd go to wrestling practice and I would learn about total body strength, total body conditioning. My program called Mass Made Simple is based and works best with wrestlers getting ready for track season as throwers. It's funny to think about this. When I first started coaching, I didn't like my throwers to wrestle because I was an idiot. And then later, I began to notice that when they came out of wrestling, we didn't need to do things like farmer walk, suitcase carries, and a whole bunch of other stuff. They had that weird whole body freakish strength, that dad strength, whatever you want to call it. And so what would happen is they'd come in, they've been losing weight to get to this number, and then I would put them on Mass Made Simple. It was 6 weeks. We were into the preseason when these guys were still, so we had to juggle days. You know, I don't want my kids doing, you know, a set of 50 with their body weight the day before a track meet because they wouldn't be able to walk very well. But one of the boys I remember specifically at a home track meet going, Coach, I got to get my squats in and the workout. And so God bless him. And that was a good team. That was my daughter Kelly's classmates. What a good group of young men they were. And so they went into the weight room after a home track meet where they threw the shot and discus and did really well and they got their squats in. And I can remember thinking, oh, these guys are going to be good in everything in life. And they were. And that's why if you read Mass Made Simple, one of my pieces of advice is to lose weight before you do the program. Because your body, once you've been, wrestling season makes you go, and then when you stop, your body goes, shh. And if you do Mass Made Simple at the same time, it goes, you know. And he asked this great question here. What program should I do that will reassure the football coach that being strong and quick is important? First off, the fact that you have to have this conversation, Chris, amazes me. What football player, coach, wouldn't want their kids wrestling? You know, if any football coach thinks football practice is hard, go to a wrestling practice. I remember being in a high school, my senior especially, when I finally figured out that one of our coaches, and I'm not throwing him under the bus, I'm just saying he was full of it. And one day you sit up there and you go, and he was the one who was always trying to be, you know, oh, you guys aren't in good enough shape. And it's like, the other one, you know, we're getting ready for one of the teams, and these guys spend their whole life thinking about beating you guys. And it was like 36-0 at halftime. We destroyed these guys. But, you know, you just had to, my senior, I just started to pretend like the conditioning was killing me. But, you know, after you've done high school wrestling, you know, doing some wind sprints just isn't that hard. Yeah, I mean, you have the helmet on, and back then they wouldn't let you drink water because, you know, they wanted to kill us. And, you know, had all that equipment on it. Oh, it stunk. Oh, my God, did we smell. But, you know, you're just running, you know, it's no big deal. It's not like someone's got their, you know, arm around you and they're, you know, what was that? The half Nelson, the bar and a half. That was my favorite pinning combo. You know, when you got a bar and a half on somebody and you're rolling them on their ear and they're trying to torque their head into places that's never been before and never will be again. That's radically different than, you know. So yeah, you got to have your coach actually go to a wrestling meet. Go see a superior team in their wrestling program. It'll highlight you. We had a couple of teams in our division who had great wrestling programs and bad football programs. And what was interesting is to watch that same group of young men who were just so dominant in wrestling, but they weren't coached well in American football. And it was small things like they didn't have gap integrity. They didn't do their jobs. And if you want to lose football game, you know, have your 11 defenders not do their first job, their second job, and their third job. You know, you got to do your job. The great American football coach, Bill Belichick. 3 words: do your job. It was weird to watch these teams with these great athletes, and you'd go like this with your head, and all 11 boys would run that way, and you go the other way. Yeah. Crazy, but true. Should wrestlers train in season? Yeah, wrestling by itself is enough. Good wrestling programs will do some kind of weight training. If you get a chance to read some of Dan Gable's works, I don't have it anymore, and I wish I did, but I had some of Dan Gable's training programs, and they were brutal, they were hard, a lot of ab work, a lot of neck work. But yeah, personally, I would go back to the very first Strength and Health magazine I ever read that recommended that the Olympic lifts are the best things to do for wrestling. That's the first, that was the first one I ever read. And it stuck with me, this little phrase. If I'm wrestling somebody, I'm wrestling the 154s, and I know that I can snatch 155. When I shake this guy's head, I know I can take him and whip him over my head. That's a pretty good thing to be able to play. When I played adult American football, I can remember they would line these guys up on me, and because I was I was 6 foot 260, but really fast because I was an Olympic lifter and discus thrower, and they'd line up some guy, and the physics was always hilarious because I knew that I could. The guy weighed 155, and I knew that I could probably throw him over a bar, and so it gave me a lot of confidence that if he decided to put his hands on me, that it was a collision I would win, and he did. So yeah, if you can, the Olympic lifts, but other than that, any training is just fine. I always thought appropriate circuit training would be great for wrestlers, but you'd have to talk to a smarter wrestling coach than me. Well, there you go. That's it for this week. That went smooth. That went easy. Reminder that if you have questions, and I'm sure you might, email them to us at podcast@danjohnuniversity.com, and I'll sit here and answer them as best I can. It's always a joy being with you. I love doing this. Some people have asked for some other things in the upcoming podcasts, and I am working on them. And as soon as I can figure out how to talk to a few of the people you've asked me to talk to, I'll take care of that. I don't necessarily want to turn this into an interview podcast, because so many of you have such good questions, and they're honest questions, and they're things I want to get to. So I'm going to keep my focus on you, gentle listener. And until next time, let's all keep on lifting and learning. Thanks so much.